The voices started 3 days after Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison landed at Fort Campbell. Not voices, exactly. Thus, fragments. Whispers that weren't coming through his ears but directly into his skull, like someone had rewired his brain and forgotten to tell him. At first, he thought it was the tinnitus. Standard issue for artillery crews. 8 years of firing M777 howitzers would do that. The docs at Landstuhl had warned him. Hearing damage. Possible nerve trauma. Take these pills. Come back in 6 months. But tinnitus didn't have words. Tinnitus didn't say things like, "I hate this fucking job," when Jake walked past the motor pool. Tinnitus didn't whisper, "She's going to leave me," when he stood in line at the PX behind a private with a wedding ring. And tinnitus definitely didn't scream, "Contact left," during a routine gear inspection, making Jake hit the deck in the middle of the supply room while a confused specialist stared at him from behind a clipboard. The ability, if that's what it was, had rules Jake didn't understand yet. Limited range. Maybe 30 feet. Any closer and the thoughts got louder, more distinct, like tuning a radio. Any farther and they faded to white noise. Limited clarity. He didn't get full sentences or detailed information. Just surface thoughts. The immediate, automatic responses people had but didn't say out loud. Reactive. Emotional. And limited to one person at a time. If multiple people were within range, their thoughts blended together into an incomprehensible mess unless Jake focused hard on a specific voice. He didn't tell anyone. Not the docs at the VA. Not his command. Not his mother, who called twice a week from Tulsa and asked if he was eating enough. Because Jake Morrison had seen what happened to soldiers who came back broken. Medical discharge. Disability ratings. Years of fighting the system for benefits. The look in people's eyes that said, damaged goods. He'd rather live with the voices. The IED had gone off on a Tuesday. Route clearance patrol outside Kandahar. Jake's crew was third in the convoy. Standard procedure. They'd run the route 100 times. Cleared it every morning for 6 months straight. The Taliban had learned to wait. The explosion took out the lead vehicle. He flipped like a toy. Jake's gun truck stopped 30 meters back. His crew dismounted to provide security while the medics worked. That's when the second IED detonated. Buried under the shoulder. Command wire triggered. Someone watching from the hills, waiting for the dismounts. Jake didn't remember the blast. Didn't remember the medevac. Didn't remember the first 3 days at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center. He remembered waking up. Remembered the doctors telling him he was lucky. Concussion. Shrapnel in his left shoulder. Burst eardrum. But alive. 3 men from his crew weren't. Corporal Eddie Santos. Specialist Mike Chin. Private First Class David Reeves. Jake had been their team leader. Had told them where to stand. Had positioned them exactly where the IED was buried. The Army called it combat. Called it unavoidable. Gave him a Purple Heart and a month of leave. Jake called it something else. His fault. Civilian life was harder than deployment. Jake moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Clarksville, 20 minutes from post. The landlord was former Army. Gave him a discount. Didn't ask questions when Jake paid 6 months up front in cash. He'd saved most of his deployment money. Hadn't had anything to spend it on downrange except protein powder and care packages for the younger guys. Now he had time. Too much time. Jake spent his days at the gym. Lifting until his muscles screamed. Running until his lungs burned. Anything to shut out the thoughts. His own and everyone else's. The gym was where he learned to filter. 30 people in the building. 30 voices. At first it was overwhelming. A wall of noise. 1 more rep, and she texted back, and my knee hurts, and I'm so fat, and did I leave the stove on, all bleeding together into cognitive chaos. But Jake had spent 8 years in artillery. Had learned to pick out radio chatter from background noise during firefights. Had learned to focus. He practiced. Sat in the corner between sets and concentrated. Picked one person. Listened. Tuned out the others. It took 2 weeks before he could maintain focus for more than 30 seconds. It took a month before he could do it without getting a headache that lasted for hours. And it took 6 weeks before Jake realized what he was actually hearing. Not mind reading. Not telepathy in the sci-fi sense. Just the unspoken truth people carried around like weights. The guy benching 3 plates who thought, "I'm not good enough," every time he failed a rep. The woman on the treadmill who thought, "He's going to leave me," while staring at her phone. The teenager doing curls who thought, "Dad would be proud," with such desperate hope it made Jake's chest hurt. Everyone was lying. Not to each other. To themselves. Smiling faces hiding quiet desperation. Small talk covering existential dread. The performance of normal life while the internal monologue screamed something entirely different. Jake had known this intellectually. Everyone did. But knowing and hearing were different things. Hearing it was like seeing behind the curtain. And once you'd seen, you couldn't unsee. The first time Jake used the ability deliberately was at the VA clinic. Routine follow-up. 3 months post-injury. The doc was young. Maybe 30. Civilian contractor. Nice enough. Ran through the standard questions. Any headaches? No. Dizziness? No. Mood changes? Irritability? Difficulty sleeping? I'm fine. The doc made notes. Asked a few more questions. Then pulled out a prescription pad. "I'm going to give you something for the tinnitus. It might help. And I want you to schedule a follow-up with behavioral health. Just to check in. Standard procedure for blast injuries." Jake took the script. "I don't need BH. It's not about need. It's about prevention. Traumatic brain injury can have delayed effects. Especially with..." The doc's thought cut through the professional tone like a knife. "He's lying. Classic PTSD. Won't admit it. They never do." Jake's jaw tightened. "I said I'm fine." "I know. But I'd still like you to..." "Fine." The doc held his gaze for a moment. Then nodded. "But if anything changes. If you need to talk. The door's open." Jake left without scheduling the follow-up. Because the doc was right. He was lying. And hearing someone else confirm it made it real in a way he couldn't handle. The ability got stronger. Or maybe Jake just got better at using it. By month 4, he could pick out thoughts from 50 feet away. Could maintain focus for 10 minutes without losing concentration. Could filter multiple voices and isolate specific people in a crowd. He started noticing patterns. The grocery store cashier who smiled at every customer but thought, "I want to die," on repeat like a mantra. The cop directing traffic who radiated, "I should have been a teacher," with every gesture. The couple at the coffee shop holding hands while both thought about other people. Everyone was broken. Everyone was pretending. And Jake was the only one who could hear the truth. It made him angry at first. Angry at the performance. Angry at the lies. Angry at how easy it was for people to fake happiness while their internal worlds were screaming. Then it made him sad. Because he realized he was doing the same thing. Smiling at his mother on video calls while thinking about the 3 men who died under his command. Telling the V he was fine while the voices in his head, both his own and everyone else's, said otherwise. Going through the motions of normal life while feeling like a ghost haunting his own existence. The ability hadn't changed him. It had just shown him what he already was. Jake met Sarah at a veterans support group. He'd gone once. Required attendance for his disability claim. The VA made you jump through hoops. Sarah was a volunteer. Former Army herself. Medic. 2 deployments to Iraq. Discharged after an RPG attack left her with a steel rod in her leg and a medical retirement at 26. She ran the coffee station. Smiled at everyone. Asked how they were doing with genuine interest. Jake heard her thoughts from across the room. "I hate being here. I hate seeing them struggle. I hate that I can't fix it." He'd expected something different. Expected the usual volunteer thoughts. Pity. Awkwardness. Performative compassion. Instead, he heard pain. Real pain. The kind that came from understanding. After the meeting, Jake approached her. "You do this every week?" Sarah looked up. "Yeah. Someone has to. That's not why you do it." She paused. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Excuse me?" Jake immediately regretted saying anything. This was the problem with hearing thoughts. You knew things you shouldn't. Responded to information people hadn't shared. I just mean, you don't seem like the type who does things out of obligation. Sarah studied him. Her thought came through clear and sharp. He sees me. Actually sees me. When was the last time someone did that? Coffee? Jake asked. Sarah smiled. Yeah. Coffee. They dated for 3 months before Jake told her. Not about the ability. About the IED. About Santos, Chen, and Reeves. About how he'd been the one to position them. About how he should have seen the secondary device. About how he replayed that day every night before falling asleep and every morning when he woke up. Sarah listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "It wasn't your fault. You don't know that. I do. I've seen what IEDs do. Seen how they're placed. You couldn't have known. I should have. Stop." Her voice was firm. You can torture yourself with should've for the rest of your life. Or you can accept that you did the best you could with the information you had. Both choices are valid. But only one lets you move forward. Jake looked at her. Really looked. Her thought was quiet. So, I tell him the same things I tell myself. Maybe if I say them enough, one of us will believe it. What about you? Jake asked. You ever move forward? Sarah's expression shifted. I'm trying. Some days are better than others. What happened? She was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled up her pant leg and showed him the scar. 6 inches of surgical steel visible beneath the skin. RPG hit our convoy. I was treating wounded when the vehicle caught fire. Had to choose between saving myself and saving the guy I was working on. I chose myself. He didn't make it. That's survival, not cowardice. I know, intellectually, but knowing and believing are different things. Jake reached across the table and took her hand. Her thought came through clear. He understands. He actually understands. God, I've been so alone. You're not alone, Jake said. Sarah squeezed his hand. Neither are you. The first time Jake heard Sarah's real thoughts, the ones beneath the survival mechanisms and coping strategies, was during an argument. 6 months into the relationship. They'd moved in together. Small house. Quiet neighborhood. The kind of place where people mowed their lawns on Saturday and waved at neighbors. The argument was about nothing. Dishes. Bills. Who forgot to buy milk. The kind of fight couples had when the real issue was something else. Jake had been having nightmares. Bad ones. Waking up at 3 a.m. drenched in sweat, Sarah's name on his lips because in the dream she'd been in the gun truck, had been standing where Santos stood, had taken the blast meant for him. He hadn't told her about the nightmares. Hadn't told her he was listening to her thoughts more and more often because hearing her internal voice was the only way he could convince himself she was real, was still alive, was still here. You're not listening to me, Sarah said. I am. No. You're here but you're not present. You've been distant for weeks. I'm trying to help but you won't let me in. I'm fine. Bullshit. Her voice cracked. You're not fine. I know you're not fine. And I need you to stop pretending because I can't do this alone. Her thought hit Jake like a physical blow. I'm losing him, just like I lost everyone else. I'm watching him slip away and I can't stop it. Jake froze. He'd been so focused on his own internal chaos that he hadn't considered what it was doing to her. Hadn't realized she was drowning too. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what? For making you carry this. For shutting you out. He stopped. Took a breath. I have nightmares. Every night. And they're about you dying. About me failing to protect you the way I failed to protect them. Sarah's expression softened. Jake. I know it's not rational. I know you're not in danger. But my brain doesn't care. And I thought if I kept it to myself, if I didn't burden you with it, you'd be okay. I'm not okay when you shut me out. I'm okay when we face things together. Her thought was quieter now. Gentler. He's trying. He's actually trying. That's more than most. Jake pulled her close. Held her tight. Let himself be held in return. I'm going to therapy, he said. Real therapy. Not the VA bullshit. Someone who specializes in PTSD. Okay. And I need you to promise me something. What? If I start shutting you out again, if I start pulling away, you call me on it. Immediately. Don't let me disappear. Sarah nodded against his chest. I promise. Therapy helped. Dr. Rachel Winters, civilian psychologist, former Navy. She deployed twice to Afghanistan as a mental health provider. Knew the military culture. Knew the language. More importantly, she knew bullshit when she heard it. You're holding back, she said during their third session. Jake shifted in his seat. I'm answering your questions. You're giving me the approved responses. The ones that sound good on paper. But they're not the truth. Her thought confirmed it. He's scared. Scared of being judged. Scared of being labeled. Scared of losing control. I'm scared, Jake admitted. Of what? Of being broken. Of being the guy who can't function. Of confirming everyone's worst assumptions about veterans. Dr. Winters leaned forward. What if I told you that acknowledging the damage isn't the same as being broken? That recognizing you need help is strength, not weakness. I'd say you're using textbook therapeutic language. She smiled. Fair. Let me put it differently. You survived an IED blast. 3 of your men didn't. You have survivor's guilt and PTSD. That's not weakness. That's a normal human response to abnormal circumstances. Doesn't feel normal. Because you're comparing yourself to an impossible standard. The version of you that existed before the blast. But that person doesn't exist anymore. You're different now. And that's okay. Jake was quiet for a long moment. What if the difference isn't just PTSD? He asked. What do you mean? He'd never said it out loud. Never admitted it to anyone. What if something changed in my brain? What if the blast did something that can't be fixed? Dr. Winters's thought was careful. Clinical. He's hinting at something. Neurological? Psychological? Push gently. Has something changed? She asked. Jake hesitated. This was the moment. He could tell her. Could explain about the voices, the thoughts, the ability that made him feel like he was going insane. Or he could lie. He chose the middle ground. I hear things sometimes. Intrusive thoughts. Not mine. Or maybe they are mine and I just don't recognize them. I don't know. That's common with PTSD. The brain trying to process trauma. Have you talked to your doctor about medication? I don't want to be medicated. That's your choice. But there are options. Therapy, medication, a combination of both. The goal isn't to erase what happened. It's to give you tools to live with it. Jake nodded slowly. Dr. Winters's next thought made him pause. He's not telling me everything, but he's trying. That's progress. The breakthrough came 6 months into therapy. Jake was at the grocery store. Late evening. Mostly empty. He was picking up ingredients for dinner when he felt the familiar tug of nearby thoughts. A woman, maybe 40, standing in the pharmacy aisle staring at bottles of pills. Her thought was loud. Desperate. 1 bottle. That's all it would take. 1 bottle and it's over. Jake froze. He'd heard dark thoughts before. Everyone had them. Fleeting moments of despair or frustration that passed as quickly as they came. This wasn't fleeting. This was a decision being made in real time. Jake approached slowly. Excuse me. The woman turned. Eyes red. Makeup smeared. Can I help you? Her voice was flat. Automatic. I don't know, Jake said honestly. But I wanted to check if you're okay. I'm fine. The lie was automatic. Practiced. Her thoughts screamed the opposite. Leave me alone. You don't know me. You can't help. No one can. Jake took a breath. This was dangerous territory. He wasn't a therapist. Wasn't trained for crisis intervention. But he couldn't just walk away. I'm a veteran, he said. Iraq and Afghanistan. I lost 3 men under my command. Came home with PTSD and survivor's guilt. Spent a year thinking about ways to end it because living with the guilt felt impossible. The woman's expression shifted slightly. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm still here. Because I got help. Because the voice in my head that said it would never get better was wrong. Her thought wavered. He knows. Somehow he knows. How does he know? I don't know you. Jake continued. Don't know your situation. But I know that feeling. That certainty that the pain is permanent. And I'm telling you it's not. You don't understand. You're right. I don't. But someone at the crisis hotline will. Someone at a support group will. Someone who's been exactly where you are will. Jake pulled out his phone and showed her the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Call them. Right now. Or call 911. Or let me call someone for you. But don't make a permanent decision based on temporary pain. The woman stared at the number. Her thoughts were a storm of conflicting emotions. I'm so tired. But he cares. A stranger cares. When was the last time anyone cared? She took out her phone with shaking hands. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Jake stayed with her until the crisis counselor arrived 30 minutes later. Gave his statement to the police. Made sure she was safe. When he got home, Sarah was waiting. You okay? She asked. Jake collapsed onto the couch. I stopped someone from killing themselves tonight. He explained what happened. Left out the part about hearing her thoughts. Sarah sat next to him. You did good. I got lucky. Right place, right time. Maybe. Or maybe you paid attention when someone else would have looked away. Her thought was proud. He's healing. Slowly. But he's healing. Jake leaned into her. I'm trying. I know. The pattern repeated over the next year. Jake became hyper-aware of people in crisis. Could pick out the dangerous thoughts from the background noise of everyday anxiety and stress. The teenager at the mall whose thoughts screamed about bullying and isolation. The middle-aged man at the gym whose internal monologue was a loop of financial desperation. The elderly woman at the VA who thought about joining her dead husband with such longing it made Jake's chest ache. He intervened when he could. Carefully. Without revealing how he knew. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it didn't. He couldn't save everyone. But he could try. And trying was better than doing nothing. 2 years after the IED, Jake got a call from Fort Campbell. Captain Rodriguez. Battalion S3. Operations Officer. Staff Sergeant Morrison. Got a minute? I'm out, sir. Medical retirement. I know. That's why I'm calling. We're putting together a veteran peer support program. Guys who've been through it helping guys who are going through it. Your name came up. Interested? Jake thought about it. Thought about the woman at the grocery store. The teenager at the mall. All the moments where knowing someone's internal struggle had made the difference. What does it involve? Monthly meetings. One-on-one mentorship. Crisis intervention training. You'd be working with soldiers fresh back from deployment. Helping them transition. Jake's ability couldn't fix PTSD. Couldn't erase trauma. Couldn't bring back the dead. But it could identify who was struggling. Who was hiding it. Who needed help before it was too late. Yeah, Jake said. I'm interested. The program started 6 months later. Jake worked with 12 soldiers in the first year. Most of them artillery. Most of them dealing with the same guilt and trauma he'd carried. He couldn't tell them about the ability. Couldn't explain how he knew exactly what they were thinking. But he could tell them about Santos, Chen, and Reeves. Could tell them about the year he spent drowning in guilt. Could tell them about Sarah and Dr. Winters and the slow, painful process of learning to live with what had happened. And he could listen. Really listen. Not just to their words, but to the thoughts beneath them. The private who said he was fine but thought about his rifle every night. The specialist who smiled during group but whose internal monologue was a countdown to discharge. The sergeant who presented as together but was falling apart behind closed doors. Jake caught them before they fell. Not all of them. He wasn't magic. The ability had limits. But enough. Enough to matter. 3 years after the IED, Jake stood in Arlington National Cemetery. Section 60. Where they buried the recent dead. Santos. All in a row. White headstones. Fresh flowers. Sarah stood beside him. They'd gotten married 6 months earlier. Small ceremony. Just family and a few friends from the veteran community. You okay? She asked. Jake stared at the headstones. I don't know. That's honest. I still think about them. Every day. Still wonder if I could have done something different. That's normal. I know. Dr. Winters says the guilt might never fully go away. Says the goal isn't to forget, but to carry it differently. Sarah squeezed his hand. Are you carrying it differently? Yeah. Jake thought about the soldiers he'd helped, the lives he'd touched, the small ways he'd turned his trauma into something useful. I'm trying. Sarah's thought was warm, proud. He's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Jake leaned down and placed 3 small stones on the headstones. Jewish tradition. Sarah had taught him. A way of showing respect. Of saying you were here. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, he whispered. But I'm trying to save others in your name. Hope that's enough. The wind picked up. Cold November air. The kind that cut through jackets and reminded you winter was coming. Jake turned away from the graves. Sarah walked beside him. And somewhere in his head, beneath the surface thoughts of everyone around him, beneath the white noise of a world constantly thinking, Jake heard his own voice. Quieter now. Less urgent. You did what you could. That's all anyone can do. For the first time in 3 years, he believed it. Jake Morrison is 36 now. 5 years since the IED. 5 years since the voices started. He still hears them. Still can't turn them off. Still picks up thoughts from everyone within 50 feet like a radio he can't shut down. But he's learned to live with it. Learned to filter. To focus. To use the ability without letting it consume him. He runs the peer support program full-time now. Works with 50 soldiers a year. Saves maybe a dozen from the worst outcomes. It's not enough. It's never enough. But it's something. Sarah's pregnant. Due in 3 months. They're having a girl. They've already picked out the name. Elena. After Jake's grandmother. He doesn't know if the ability will pass to his daughter. Doesn't know if it's genetic or a result of the blast or something else entirely. He hopes it doesn't. Hopes she grows up normal. Without the weight of hearing everyone's unspoken pain. But if it does, he'll teach her what he's learned. That hearing thoughts doesn't make you a mind reader. It makes you a witness. That everyone is struggling. Everyone is pretending. Everyone is carrying weight they don't show. That the performance of normal life is exactly that. A performance. And that knowing the truth, really knowing it, is both a curse and a gift. A curse because you can never unsee it. A gift because you can help carry the weight. Jake Morrison returned from war hearing thoughts not his own. He spent years thinking it was a punishment. Now he knows it's a responsibility. And some days that's enough to keep going.